Please join me in welcoming Claire McLaughlin from Thompson Rivers University. Please open their report from the link in your email, which we also just shared in the chat, and scroll to their green sheet in your judge handbook. Judges, you will now have 3 minutes to review the report. Judges, please turn your attention to the screen as we begin the first student's video.
Hello, my name is Claire McLaughlin. I'm the co-founder of Friendly Composting. We make living sustainable, simple, and accessible for communities. Climate change is one of the biggest threats to mankind, and it is one heck of a problem to solve. It is causing anxiety and uncertainty across the world, and the solutions need to come from local sources. One of the biggest contributors to climate change is food waste. 1/3 of the world's food is wasted each year, which contributes 6% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The majority of food waste gets sent to the landfill. When food waste is sent to the landfill, it doesn't have access to air, which causes it to produce carbon dioxide and methane. Methane gas is 25 times more effective at trapping heat in the Earth's atmosphere than carbon dioxide. Food waste is an incredibly valuable resource. It's filled with nutrients that can be composted into nutrient-rich soil. Each year, 33% of the world's soil erodes. Quality soil is a renewable resource, but we need to make sure that we're replenishing it. So if composting is so important, why isn't everybody doing it? Number one, there's a lack of education surrounding the importance of proper processing of food waste. Number two, accessibility. People either don't have a backyard or they don't have access to a curbside program. And number three, it's a dirty job. There's cleaning involved, there might be pest control involved depending on how good you are at composting, and it's an ongoing chore. In March 2020, the week that BC shut down for COVID, my business partner, Katie Forsyth, and I were living in an apartment and found ourselves frustrated sending our food scraps to the landfill. We decided to collect our food scraps on our own and took them to the city's composting site, where we learned that they only accepted yard waste, not food waste. We knew we couldn't be the only community members frustrated by the lack of composting accessibility, so we bought some buckets from the thrift store and voluntold some of our friends to start collecting their compostables. We connected with Jillian Watt from the Sustainable Ranching Program at Thompson Rivers University, who loved what we wanted to do, and she generously allowed us to use her land to do it. She has been an integral part of our journey to this day. We thought that compost was going to be simple to figure out, but it turned out there was a lot more science behind it than we thought. Thankfully, we were able to surround ourselves with people who were willing to help us learn. Traditionally, waste management is a public service provided by municipalities. Unfortunately, municipalities move slowly, they're very expensive, and you never know where composting lands on their political agenda. Friendly composting can be a fast-acting solution that provides accessibility to a composting solution for the community. Friendly composting eliminates 3 of the main barriers that keep households and businesses from composting. We take your bin away and leave you with a clean one each week. And we take care of all the processing so you don't have to. Once we got a grasp on composting and gained support from the community, we saw a huge opportunity to further our impact. We visit so many homes on a weekly basis, we decided to expand our services to include local product delivery. Composters can subscribe monthly, and their subscription gives them access to our local online shop and delivery service. Their order gets delivered to their door on their compost pickup day. We partnered with over 20 local businesses to connect our composters with their products. The value of our local partnerships is intangible and has resulted in a ripple effect of local collaboration.
You guys are amazing. You're always trying to push us to be greener and greater. We want to let you know that your business model not only helped us, but also helps the local community and helps empower other local small businesses.
We can honestly say that without your guys' support, our business would not be as successful.
Very true. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
We plan to soon open up our local product delivery services to the entire community. Eating local shortens the food supply chain, which reduces food waste, stimulates the local economy, and supports biodiversity. Our goal is to build circular economies by strengthening food systems and providing proper waste management. A large component of what we do is educating our community on the importance of composting. We provide education through social media and the farmers market, as well as speaking to elementary classes and Rotary groups. We are working with a nonprofit organization to increase our educational impact by creating a sustainability and composting resource center for the community. Now more than ever, people are wanting to take the initiative to reduce their carbon footprint and do their part in slowing climate change. Friendly composting allows people to do just that.
Huge shout out to Claire and the Friendly Composting team for bringing something to Kamloops that we needed so desperately and making it so easy and convenient to compost. And I'm very proud of you for what you've done in this community.
We've maintained a 5-star rating on Google, received countless recommendations and referrals, and was voted one of the best home services in Kamloops after just 4 months of operating. We were growing fast, so we hired our first employee, Parker, and moved into a warehouse space to tackle winter composting. Our team has since grown to include 3 full-time employees and 9 part-time drivers.
I joined the Friendly Composting team as a delivery driver, and I gotta say it was a lot of fun. They connected with local businesses, many of whom I recognized from the farmers market, and offered to deliver their products to their customers. I highly recommend Friendly Composting. 10 out of 10, the best.
In just 1 year, we have secured over 550 residential composters and over 15 commercial composters, including the mall food court, breweries, coffee shops, and restaurants. We've also been able to hold 2 food drives, which allowed us to donate over 750 pounds to the Kamloops Food Bank. All Friendly Composting merchandise is thrifted and hand-embroidered locally to minimize our carbon footprint. We divert approximately 3,000 kilograms of food waste from the landfill each week, which is the average weight of an adult male hippopotamus. In our first year of business, we have diverted nearly 150,000 kilograms of food waste from the landfill. This has prevented the emission of over 150 metric tons of greenhouse gases, which is equivalent to taking 404 cars off of the road. We are currently working to redistribute soil back into the community to farmers, community gardens, and the friendly composters who helped create it. We have received plenty of interest from other communities welcoming Friendly into their city. We are developing a strategic partnership with Spot Hills Farm to expand our commercial services regionally within the Okanagan. We have worked with a web developer to create an online platform specific to friendly composting that can be replicated and implemented in other communities that would benefit from friendly composting's circular business model. Since the beginning of our friendly composting journey, we have been in contact with the city about their waste management plans. They are now gathering public input as the first stages of developing a curbside compost pickup program. We are working with the city to fill the composting gaps in our community. The city is focusing on residential single-family dwellings with a goal of implementing their program by 2023. Friendly composting will continue to operate residentially and fill the gap for businesses and multifamily complexes within Kamloops, as well as continuing to service neighborhoods outside of Kamloops city limits. We consider ourselves lucky to have had such a busy and innovative year while the weight of the pandemic has been heavy on many. We are grateful for this community that has made it all possible and have endless thanks for every single person who has lended a helping hand along the way. The future looks friendly, and we cannot wait to see where this journey takes us next.
It is now time for the question and answer period. Judges, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Click on chat and use the drop down to ensure you send your questions directly to me, moderator Brittany Johnson. And while the questions start coming in, I'm going to have our students say their name to make sure their audio is working properly.
Claire McLaughlin.
Great. I will now start the timer. How do you plan to go nationwide?
Great question. So right now we're just focusing in the Kamloops area, and we're looking to grow within Kamloops further and then expand regionally. So our plan is to initially expand regionally with our commercial composting. We have a partnership that's being developed currently to be able to scale up and take on that workload. As well as deal with all of the logistics that go into transporting compost and processing compost. So expanding regionally is our initial plan, especially in the commercial sector. There's a huge market for it, and that is where a ton of this food waste is being produced. So we see a huge opportunity and a huge gap in the market there first. And then through our web development, our website is completely custom to what we're doing. So composters are able to sign up through our website as well as use our shop. And then our payment plan is also linked to our website. So we have a custom program that can actually take e-transfers and apply, and then link a credit card as well. So that website development is really, really important in order to expand into other communities or nationwide. I think one of the main barriers that comes up with people trying to do compost pickup services is the logistics of it. So providing that weekly service and ensuring that composters are getting that weekly service and are able to manage that, because doing that manually is just so not an option. So our website is really key in terms of expanding.
Donnie from Black Car asks, do you mark up products you sell on your online store?
Yeah, so we work with 22 suppliers. They're all local, with a focus on finding those suppliers who are practicing regenerative agriculture or sustainable sourcing. And with them, we work on a wholesale model. So we act as a retailer in that relationship. So we end up making a margin on our products. Our margin typically runs between 10 and 40%, depending on the product. Sustainable and local meats, there's not a huge margin there. So we typically mark up a little bit above the suggested retail to ensure that we're being compensated for the service that we're offering. But for meat, the margins are typically around 10%. Produce, kombucha, and bread run around 25%, and then non-perishables are closer to 40%.
Bruce Robinson from HSBC Bank Canada asks, could you please advise regarding revenues and profitability thus far?
Yeah. So within our first year, our first year of business, we have had no investors, no grant money, and we ran about 150,000 in revenue, and that did run a positive profit for us with no debts or financing. So we have run our cash flows for the next 2 years, and that is in the financial report that you were handed out, the monthly cash flows anyways. And those monthly cash flows are not based on any of our current partnerships that are in the works. So that does not include like our plans to develop our commercial composting regionally. So that is strictly based on our our product sales through our website on a weekly basis. And those growth rates are based on what our growth rates have been over the past year. And then our composting is based on our growth rates over the past year, and that projecting into the next year or two as well.
Adrian Moyes from Equilibrium. Municipalities have resources and similar programs in place already. How do you use them as partners rather than competition?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the municipality is something that we have spent a lot of time communicating with. So I guess in Kamloops specifically, they do not have a curbside program. So Kamloops specifically, we've been in contact with the city since before we even started our operations. We wanted to make sure that we were working with them and in tandem with them to address composting within the city. So we've met with them several times, and they have plans to only address single family homes. They're not going to be tackling businesses or multifamily complexes, which are huge producers of food waste, right? I mean, if you have a whole entire apartment building of food scraps that aren't being processed, that makes a big environmental impact. So, and same with businesses, especially restaurants and mall food courts and cafes and all of that. So we've been working with the city to learn about their plans and what their direction they're trying to head in. They do move very slowly. They don't plan on implementing until 2023, and that's subject to public input and how they're a pilot program or data from us, depending on which route they take there, as well as a lot of grant money to get their upfront costs going. So we've been working with them to ensure that we are addressing all aspects of composting in Kamloops. So we've been able to actually use the city as an opportunity to grow our business and secure our business and ensure that it's financially stable moving forward. And then more broadly, outside of the Kamloops area, in terms of expanding, composting is certainly starting to become something municipalities are looking to do. Approximately 50% of municipalities have a composting program in place. Sometimes that only means yard waste. And a lot of the times they don't actually have access to a commercial composting facility, which is someone that we've partnered with throughout this process. And that's really important to process meat and bones and dairy and bioplastics, any sort of packaging that says it's compostable. So we've been working with our city to figure out how municipalities work and the barriers that they face. And then on a more broad concept, a lot of municipalities want to contract their composting programs out to other companies. So there's a huge opportunity to work in partnership with municipalities.
Josh Suckman from Master Health asks, are you able to share a bit more about your business model in terms of who pays for the final compost product? And this is a two-parter. Are the composers and users of compost the same parties or different parties?
Yeah, that's a great question. The final product of our compost is something that we get asked about a ton. So right now we're actually in the final stages of figuring out what to do with our soil. It's been a full year now. We've been through all the seasons, and we finally have our first big batch of soil. With the farm that we've partnered at, with Jillian Watt out at Homewood, we're actually going to allow her to use some of the first batch for her own garden at the farm. And then we need to sift it and test it and distribute it. So many of our composters want access to that soil. So our plans are to redistribute that soil back into the community, mainly to our composters who helped create it. and many of our composters are gardeners, so they are the same client there for sure. And we can incorporate that into our delivery service as well, which is awesome, and just essentially put it up on the website as a product that they can then order to their house as a friendly composter. And we also probably have it available at the farmers market as well. So the same client there for in terms of who's producing the soil and then who's using the soil. And then we also plan to distribute it to some of our partners who grow locally and practice regenerative agriculture in the area.
Brian Yanmuck from Next Tech AR asks, can you please elaborate the other delivery services other than bin pickup and drop off? What other products are being delivered and what's the business model there?
Yeah, so apart from the compost pickup and drop off, the cleaning service that is entailed there, we have our local product delivery. So the 22 partners that we have offer a variety of local products, including organic grass-fed meats. So everything from beef, pork, chicken. We get turkeys sometimes. We have a wide variety, and they're all from different areas, different farms who specialize in that type of product. And then we also have organic seasonal vegetables from a local farm, organic. We also have kombucha, freshly baked bread that we pick up every morning before we head out for deliveries. We have microgreens that are grown locally. We also have coffee, dehydrated hummus, honey, a handful of things. And we also have cheeses and a handful of vegan products that are processed locally. So like a vegan cheese spread. So a big variety, and we're getting more and more local partnerships as we go on. I think in the video I said 20, we're up to 22 now. So it's really awesome to see people see our service as a valuable outlet for their business to connect local products to the doorsteps of community members.
Kyle Monzak from Business in the Streets asks, can you speak to your financials and help me understand profitability? What are your largest costs and what's your largest revenue driver? What is the price for your end user?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as of right now, our main revenue stream is the residential composters. So they start at $25 a month for one bin per week. And that's, $25 a month for the weekly pickups of one bin. And then we also have a 2-bin program that runs for $35 a month. And then that also gets them access to our online shop and that local product delivery service as well. So the residential is currently our main revenue stream. We have 570 composters. And then our biggest costs would be, we have a warehouse space that we rent. Fuel is one of them. We do a lot of driving. And then labor hours. I mean, a lot of our business is logistics and having people driving and cleaning and then providing that customer service as well. We go to 570 homes every single week. So we have to make sure that we're providing the customer service that goes along with that as well. So our biggest costs, labor, fuel, and our warehouse space. We lucked out with our bins. We actually got our bins recycled at the beginning. So we got about 1,000 bins at a very discounted rate. And we now have secured a supplier to continue getting those bins so we can continue expanding. And then our commercial aspect, we start at $35 for commercial, and that may just be like a lunchroom in an office, but our standard or most popular commercial contract is $180 a month, and they go up as much as $1,000 a month depending on how much food waste is being produced. And that is a weekly service again with cleaning.
Your time has expired. Judges, please join me in congratulating Claire McLaughlin. Judges, we have a couple of minutes as we bring the next student in. Please use this time to complete your green sheet and we'll get started momentarily. Please join me in welcoming Logan Grasby from Mount Royal University. Please open their report from the link in your email and scroll to their green sheet in your judge handbook. Judges, you will now have 3 minutes to review the report. Judges, please turn your attention to the screen as we begin the video.
Hi, my name is Logan Grasby, and I'm the founder of Quest Climbing. Over 10 years ago, I started climbing, and it has taken me on incredible adventures around Canada and even around the world, doing things that I never thought would be possible. Not only that, climbing has empowered me. It's given me confidence, and it's allowed me to try new things. And it was this feeling of empowerment and of confidence that made me realize I wanted to share climbing with more children. So I later became a climbing instructor, an outdoor climbing guide, and then a coach for a competitive team at the national level. And while all of these adventures that I've had, climbing have been incredibly rewarding, the most rewarding has been coaching this team. And it's because I was able to share that feeling of empowerment, of confidence, and physical literacy that I discovered in climbing with them. And I realized that as an entrepreneur, there's more that I could do to share climbing with more young children. So I founded Quest Climbing, and I created the Quest Home Wall, a modular home climbing wall designed for kids that's easily installed in the home by the customer and completely customizable by both the size and the design. This makes it so that children have a comfortable environment to experience climbing for the first time when they're young. And it makes it so that the customer can expand the wall and modify the difficulty as the child grows. I'm here at Fuse 33, a manufacturing space that has partnered with us to be able to bring our products to market. We have been able to have access here to some of the highest quality, state-of-the-art technology that allows us to produce high-quality products at scale. Not only this, but we've had access to other entrepreneurs who have helped us solve our manufacturing problems who also work in this space. We have brought the team to grow this business. Myself, I have been working at startups for over 5 years in the e-commerce space. I have the experience of bringing products to market and being able to advertise and grow those products.
Hey guys, I'm Cody Reggett. I'm a team member here at Quest Climbing. My role at Quest is to take the visions that Logan has and make them a reality. So I have 4 years of manufacturing experience on CNC machines in the industry, been making products for a number of companies, and I'm a passionate climber. So when Logan approached me and said that he wanted to make home climbing walls for kids, I jumped on board.
In April of 2020, Quest won $25,000 from the Launchpad Award in Calgary. We have installed 3 prototypes, and we, at the time, were set to launch our product, but COVID-19 hit. So instead we focused on the climbing holds, and that was a huge success because customers around Canada and the US were building home climbing walls. We ended up reaching $75,000 in revenue to date, and we have been able to serve over 250 customers across Canada and the US. As we were able to serve these customers, we were able to speak with them, over 100 of them who had children using their walls. And they told us that building a home climbing wall, especially without woodworking skills, was quite difficult. And they would be very interested in an easier solution. We also wanted to create a climbing hold that was specifically designed for children. So we looked at using a new manufacturing process that no other company is using, that makes our product more durable and easier on the hands of children. Our new Quest home wall panels can feature a mounting piece that makes the product incredibly easy for the customer to install. We also came out with a climbing wall mat that is unique in that it's specifically designed for home climbing walls. The judges will find more details on our costs and pricing in the attached financial document. Climbing as an industry is huge. In fact, it is projected to grow by $1.6 billion by 2023. And that growth is projected to continue at 7% per year. Not only that, but climbing is going to be in the next Olympics. There's over 141 million households in Canada and the US, and 37 million of those have children under the age of 12. In our home province of Alberta, we have over 500,000 of these homes with young children. We have a 3-step plan to get our product to our customers. Now, the first step is to develop an e-commerce brand and to be able to ship our products directly to our customers' doors. We can already do that with our modular home climbing wall. But in order to scale, we are going to partner with retailers, home developers, and construction companies in order to not only reach more consumers, but also move into the market for schools and commercial businesses. Finally, we look to expand to large retailers such as Mountain Equipment Co-op so that we can reach all of Canada and all of the United States with our product. By the end of 2021, we anticipate to hit $150,000 in revenue based on 100 wall sales, with an average of 5 panels per wall. That is going to be completely through our e-commerce platform and direct to the consumer. But in 2022, we anticipate on being able to add 4 retailers or home developers, being able to then reach $750,000 in revenue. In 2023, we anticipate to add 2 large retailers in addition, or $2,250,000 revenue just from our home climbing wall sales. Now, when it comes to our competitors, they just don't compare because our product is designed for the consumer. It can be shipped easily to your door, and it can be easily installed by the customer. Our competitors are climbing wall manufacturers for businesses that have happened to now move into this space, but they usually require installation that is complicated and expensive. Our product is much lower cost, much easier to install, and much more customizable than any of our competitors. In May of 2021, we are set to release our home climbing wall product. We have been able to overcome manufacturing challenges so that we can even produce this product at large scale. And we are ready to release our new lineup of climbing holds, and accompanying with our mats, we have a full lineup of products for our home climbing wall customers. We of course need to make sure that our product is safe. The judges will find our step-by-step liability plan, as well as the safety considerations that we have put into this product in the attached document. With your support, we will be able to launch Quest into the future and help children across North America be able to be more physically literate, improve their physical abilities, and improve their confidence at home. Thank you.
It is now time for the question and answer period. Judges, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Click on chat and use the drop-down to ensure you send your questions directly to me, moderator Brittany Johnson. And while the questions start coming in, I'm going to have our students say their name to make sure their audio is working properly.
Logan Grasby.
I will now start the timer. Norman asks, what type of intellectual property do you have in your business? If you do own an IP, how are you planning to use it to grow your business?
So we don't have any formal intellectual property, but everything that we have designed, certainly we have the ability to do so in the future. We design by hand the climbing holds. We have internally designed the mounting system for our climbing walls, and as well as our various setups for the different shapes for the walls and the way that those attach to the mount and the way that the mount attaches to the wall. That's certainly something that we will look into in the future. It's realistically not something that we consider is worth burning cash on right now as we're trying to launch these products.
Brian Yenmuck from Next Tech AR asks, does your growth forecast just include sales in Canada, or are there plans to expand across North America? What do those plans look like?
Yes, so that is primarily sales in Canada, or that is sales in Canada. We have already sold to the United States, and we will continue to do so. We are able to actually, through e-commerce, ship directly to the US. But in order to really reach US markets, the key is going to be through distributor partnerships. So those are going to be adding retailers that are, such as REI, which is equivalent to the Mountain Equipment Co-op of the US. So those kinds of partnerships is really what's going to allow us to reach those US markets. But again, we are able to do that right now.
Bruce Robinson, HSBC Bank Canada asks, have you thought of any complementary revenue opportunities in addition to climbing wall sales?
Yes, actually, we are currently working on adult training products. We have identified somewhat of a separate business opportunity where we are able to create a product that helps measure your training in climbing. There are incredibly popular training products that are on the market right now that are not technology enabled, and we are working with a team to kind of figure out what we might want to measure and how we can measure it so that we can provide more data to climbers that are training and be able to create a social platform. That is not what our pitch is about, but we are pursuing several different opportunities.
Stephen asks, clearly COVID positively contributed to your revenue growth in 2020. Do you anticipate that trend to continue once we are allowed out of our cages?
Yeah, so I know it depends on where you are in the country. Here in Alberta, we have seen, not currently, but previously, we had seen quite a big relaxation of restrictions. And so we got kind of a preview of what is it going to look like after this is all done. What we discovered is that actually we are seeing what I firmly believe is a massive trend in that people have discovered climbing and now they've discovered climbing at home. And so just like COVID has accelerated e-commerce, COVID has accelerated the demand for this kind of product. And we actually did not see a drop in sales from that.
Stuart Leckie from Elspark asks, could your competitors already in the market react to your entry and compete at a comparable price point?
Yeah, so I actually think that we have a very interesting competitive advantage over our other competitors. So these companies are, of course, set up to be able to manufacture large scale climbing structures for climbing gyms. However, they are not set up to be able to replicate in the same way that we are. Now, this is because, and I happen to have some more insider information on some of these companies in terms of the way that they manufacture. And a lot of this is still done by hand, whereas our partnerships allow us to actually use technology that they have no reason to spend the money on, but allows us to be able to manufacture a lot faster. And I believe that because of these partnerships and because of us being able to focus very specifically on this specific product, that we will be able to cut our costs and make our improve our margins in a way that they're just not able to with their current structure of their business.
Rahul Shah from HSBC Bank Canada asks, please give more information on your e-commerce and retail plan. Which major retailers and at what stage of negotiations are you at?
So we have currently one retailer which is already carrying our products, specifically our mat product, and we are going to be including our climbing holds very soon with them as well. And then they have already agreed to be able to carry our climbing wall panels. So this is Vertical, which is located in Eastern Canada, and on the attached document there. We also, so otherwise, we're partnered with TradeSpace, which is a business located in Calgary, and they help us with our distribution. And so they are going to be the ones actually processing our shipments and making sure, that because we are shipping large items, so the shipper that we use is going to vary. And so this is all happening quite fluidly because we're able to have that partnership. In terms of future retail partners, Mountain Equipment Co-op is definitely a target that we have, and we haven't started negotiations, but we are, we're going to approach them when we're ready. In terms of being able to move into businesses such as, commercial businesses, not residential homes. We were already in talks with a local construction company in Calgary, Ryan Murphy Construction, who is interested in installing our product. And we're talking with them about, what is this going to look like? Because there are different liability concerns with businesses that there aren't in homes. And so we want to talk with them about how are we going to do this? And this is already something we have begun our discussions on. We haven't kind of closed that agreement yet, but it's something we're looking forward to in the near future here.
Adrian Moyes from Equilibrium asks, who are your partners? Who helps you with awareness, distribution, etc.?
So previously I talked about TradeSpace, and TradeSpace is a huge distribution partner for us. So they are actually able to ship our products across Canada. We have same day shipping in Calgary, and then we're able to same day shipping across the country, I should say, sorry, but same day arrival in Calgary. And then so we're able to ship these oversized products, as I said, with multiple shippers. Really depends on where it's going, and so we are able to do that quite efficiently because of TradeSpace. Otherwise, we are able to ship our smaller products either on our own if we need to. We've also our Fuse 33, which is one of our partners, as I said in the pitch. They help us with shipping and receiving. We do have quite large shipments. So a lot of this is kind of similar to cross-docking in the way that it works. But yeah, so far we've been having quite a lot of luck with our partners.
Kyle Monzak from Business in the Streets asks, describe your perfect customer. Installation skills, age of children, repurchase behavior. How big do you believe this market is?
Perfect. Yeah. So kind of a two-part question there. So the first part, yeah, we believe our customer is going to be kind of upper middle class. They likely have a household income of 100,000, and they likely have children who are probably more on the younger side. So they're going to be even as young as 6 months to 8 years old. And then we will see customers, and we've had interest from customers who are kind of in the 8 to 12 range with their children in the 8 to 12 range. And so they are going to be, of course, purchasing the climbing holds and then repurchasing in order to modify the wall as the child grows. So expanding the wall, but also expanding the difficulty of their climbing holds as they're able to easily replace them. And then to the second part of your question there, we are, and sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought on what the second part of, could I just be reminded?
Yes. How big do you believe this market is?
Oh, yes. So we like to, of course, I gave you those numbers in the pitch, but I'd like to compare it to trampolines. So when trampolines first came onto the market, especially in Canada, it wasn't well adopted. People thought it was dangerous. People didn't catch on until it did. Now it's almost a $4.6 billion market. And so obviously it's huge. Many people bring these into their backyards for their children. And so this is actually a product that when you compare it to that market, it's actually more accessible. More people are able to install this than people who have yards that can fit trampolines. And so we believe that this market can actually hit that around $5 billion range, and then to continue to go beyond that. Luckily in North America, we have a higher concentration of homes that have this kind of space that we need for this product. And so we do feel quite strongly about that projection.
Justin McAleen from 86 Network asks, what is your production capacity and how quickly can you scale production if sales take off?
Yeah, great question. So we can actually manufacture a panel in around 30 minutes now. We got that down from 2 hours by refining our process, which we're incredibly proud about. So, you can expand that across a day. And realistically, given our sales projections, as you've seen previously, that essentially means we do not have production issues at all. When it comes to our climbing holds, we are actually able to produce around 1,000 a week right now. So again, higher than we need currently and higher than our projections. We actually are able to scale that easily. We could scale that to 10,000 if we needed to because of our manufacturing partner. That's another thing I'd like to add to the previous questions. We do have a manufacturing partner for our climbing holds now. I used to make them myself in my garage. And now we work with a manufacturing partner to do this at scale.
Madhav Goyal from Google asks, what do customers do with the product once they can't use it anymore?
Yeah, great question. So obviously the kids are going to grow up and you might decide that you would like to get rid of the wall or do whatever you want with it. So luckily when it's
the time has expired. Judges, please join me in congratulating Logan Grasby. Judges, you will now have a scheduled break of 7 minutes. Please ensure that you are back at 2:16 when we will begin the last two presentations. Please join me in welcoming Laura Russell from St. Mary's University. Please open their report from the link in your email and scroll to their green sheet in your judge handbook. Judges, you will now have 3 minutes to review the report. Judges, please turn your attention to the screen for the video presentation.
Bonjour, hello. My name is Laura Russell, and I'm the founder and CEO of Cohability, a roommate matchmaking platform here to help people live better together. There are a few relationships in our lives that can really define us, and when you think of them, the first two that probably come to mind are romantic and family. But one that's often overlooked is the one you have with your housemate. In North America, 70% of millennials co-rent their housing, and with the pandemic are spending more time at home. That means that this relationship matters now more than what it ever has. We have solutions for finding romantic relationships, and unfortunately with family, you don't really get a choice. But where's the solution for finding a compatible person to live with? Where's the eHarmony for roommates? Ah, that's me, that's us, that's what we do. With our platform, you input your desires and lifestyle, and then our proprietary algorithm gives you a percentage match to other users. We've partnered with St. Mary's University and MyTax to research what factors really matter when cohabitating with somebody and the effect that this relationship can have on your mental health and student success. The people suffering the most housing pain tend to be younger and lower income groups across our country. Last year, Halifax, Nova Scotia saw vacancy rates from 1% to -1%. People are renting out their living rooms during a global pandemic because of the housing affordability crisis. This just in housing hotspots across Canada like Vancouver, Toronto, and Halifax, 56% of people say that housing in their city is unreasonably high or unaffordable. The majority of North Americans aged 20 to 35 co-rent their housing because they can't afford to live otherwise. Finding roommates is hard enough, but finding compatible ones is no. It's there's not even a process because it's based on guesswork and just causes anxiety and stress. I can tell you from personal experience how much a negative living situation can impact one's overall well-being, and that's why cohability focuses on people's compatibility. According to Housebomb, the global co-living market reached just shy of $8 billion in 2020. There's 151 million North Americans who co-rent their housing. With leases lasting an average of a year and a half, that's over 100 million potential users annually. If we could capture just 6% of this market share, you got it. That would be over 6 million annual users. Cohability is changing the way people search for roommates and housing. We're positioning ourselves as roommate matchmakers. While our competition attempts to differentiate on things like being free or offering room listings, we're focusing on our algorithm and improving the quality of our results. With this customer-centric positioning and research solving a real-world problem, I expect to become a dominant player in the market. With Cohability, it's free to create your profile, set your preferences, and even browse for roommates. You only pay when you want to unlock a suite of features, including in-app purchases such as unlimited swipes or greater profile visibility. Cohability will make use of a diversified revenue model where we're going to offer freemium, premium, a la carte pricing, as well as capturing some advertising revenue. For customer trials, we'll use the freemium model to gain traction as we go to market, targeting students and young professionals. This approach will allow us to scale quickly and achieve critical mass so that we can start generating revenue as quickly as possible. By using an a la carte pricing system, just like online dating sites, we'll be able to allow our customers to build a product package at a price that they're comfortable with for what they want. Initially, the revenue model will focus on the B2C side of things and be a mixture of in-app membership tiers, a la carte purchases, and advertising revenue. An a la carte pricing system allows the customer to purchase only what they want, increasing customer satisfaction and allowing Cohability to really experiment with what the customers want so we can stay ahead of our competition. We've had discussions with a couple universities and colleges on how Cohability can be implemented as an off-campus housing resource for their students. Due to the pandemic, however, these conversations have been temporarily placed on hold as most campuses have gone to virtual learning and significantly decreased the students on campus. We'll use the familiar customer funnel and sales pipeline with some minor tweaks, as we will rely heavily on referrals and social media, in addition to search engine optimization and direct advertising to get the attention of our customers.
So, who am I? I grew up in rural Nova Scotia, and I was the youngest of 3 children. My father was an entrepreneur, and I remember the family being very crafty and innovative. Us country folk have complex issues with limited resources that we have to work with. When asked the common question, what do you want to be when you grow up, I could never convey my dream. Other students would say a veterinarian, a firefighter, or a teacher, but all I could say is I want to help people. I was recognized at a very young age for conveying strong leadership qualities. That took me really far in life. I excelled academically and in extracurriculars, particularly sport.
Story time. So after graduating university, I moved to Edmonton. I had plans to be with somebody who was in the airborne infantry out there. And unfortunately, he had a parachuting accident and suffered a severe brain injury and didn't remember who I was. I still moved out, thinking if I was closer, he'd remember. But the issue was I found myself in a city of 4 million people, and the only person I knew didn't remember me. So I was at a loss for what to do for roommates. The person from school that I moved out there with only lasted 7 months. I was lucky enough that they finished paying out their part of the lease. My next best option was to live with a coworker and her boyfriend, and that was a terrible decision because they had a toxic relationship and fought all the time, and I was always caught in the middle. How did you know if living with a stranger is going to be better than the situation that you're already in? Like, at least I knew these people. Wasn't really happy, but I was confident that they weren't going to kill me at my sleep. I knew I was going to need a lot of help to realize my dream. So in spring of 2019, I applied and was accepted to Propel ICT, an accelerator here in Atlantic Canada. After that, in the summer, I went into Launchpad DAO, where I was actually awarded $10,000 in non-dilutive funds. After Launchpad, I still felt like I needed to know more, so I leveraged the funds to return to school at St. Mary's and take my Master's of Technology, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation. I work directly with my university's Entrepreneurship Center, in addition to Atlantic Canada's foremost venture capital professor. I also have direct access to the Dean of Science through my MyTax research project, who happens to be a PhD in psychology.
When we tested the market about a year ago, we got over 80 pre-signups, mainly from people scattered across the United States. Since launching our MVP last October, we have over 90 active users on the site, and that's during a global pandemic. Thanks to Enactus, we were featured on Global News Halifax, so we expect to see our exposure across the nation and our user base grow. We've also partnered with Knowledge for Students, which is the first student-run podcast brand to help postgraduate students navigate uni life. Current projections have us making over $10,000 in revenue by the end of the year while still in customer trial.
Now I know what I wanted to be, an entrepreneur.
It is now time for the question and answer period. Judges, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Click on chat and use the drop-down to ensure you send your questions directly to me, moderator Brittany Johnson. And while the questions start coming in, I'm going to have our students say their name to make sure their audio is working properly.
Laura Russell.
I will now start the timer. Marco from Singularity Draper asks, what is your vision for the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I hope to not only capture the local market, but I'd like to see expansion to at least 2 other major Canadian cities, including the U.S., including some additional U.S. cities. So I'd like to go into North America. In 5 years, I would like to be in at least 5 cities.
Donnie from Blackcart asks, beyond subscription revenue, where your success case means folks find a match and don't continue to pay you, have you considered other ways to generate revenue beyond the initial engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why I spoke to the a la carte pricing, because what it does is it gives the people the option of paying for, an example would be like a super swipe or to boost your profile for a week. So it's a way to capture additional revenue. It's actually how Match.com captures about 30% of their revenue. In addition to that, when we expand to B2B, we do also expect to be getting direct sales revenue as well as advertising revenue, because it has become apparent that there is also a market for major REIT companies.
Madhav from Google asks, how many paying customers do you have? And this is a 2-parter. The second part is, how do you know people won't just use the free features and not pay?
Right now, we don't. We're still in customer trial, so we don't have any, because we're still on our minimum viable product. We don't have any paying customers. And sorry, the second part was,
how do you know people won't just use the free features and not pay?
I don't, but that's how a lot of companies have built their brands, is they've offered it the freemium version, and then when people speak to it, because it's not just about the monetary currency. Once people are go through it, and they can encourage the other people to use it, they'll still be generating a derivative currency even after we're done with any financial part of it.
Norman asks, what happens if someone gets into a home and realizes that the housemates are not as great housemates as indicated, while their profiles will have already matched? How soon can one switch from one house to another? And how will servicing such clients affect your business?
So we indemnify ourselves of any liability of anything that could go wrong. But sorry, that was a two-part question.
The second part was, how soon can one switch from one house to another? And how will servicing such clients affect your business?
We don't have any control over what people's leases are, but we can assist them through like providing lease resources. But when the prototype is complete, we'll be able to track like what people's matches and percentages actually were. And I get like most of the time it's going to come back to either the algorithm was wrong or people were dishonest in answering it. And if this is a one-off scenario, or if it happens on like multiple occasions, like every time, we'll know that we have something significantly wrong with the algorithm. But if it only happens on like one or a handful of occasions, it could be isolated to that.
Adrian asks, what are the differentiators or skills you believe are required to build this business? What are your skills? And do you have any partners or co-founders?
Right now, I don't have any partners or co-founders. And then my skills are having a vision and overseeing it and getting people together and getting people to believe in a common vision.
Justin from 86 Network asks, what is your marketing strategy to attract users? I see no accounting for the costs associated with building awareness of this service.
Yeah, I apologize for that with the financials. I realized I made a couple of errors on that. What marketing strategy is in the beginning while we're still building our prototype is to just leverage the what we can through our organic reach here in Halifax, where that's going to be our initial market.
Stuart from Elspark asks, what data can you speak to regarding the success of your matches?
Right now, we only have two, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a tech background, so it's not enough to work with off of two.
Kyle from Business in the Streets asks, you mentioned critical mass. How many users do you estimate that might be, and how do you plan to get there?
When I think of critical mass in terms of a company like Tinder, they have 5 million annual users or monthly users. Obviously, we don't have the same type of business model, so it would be less than that. So critical to mass to me would be reaching at least 1 million people.
Curtis from Yim Team asks, have you explored connecting quality tenants with landlords?
Yeah, we actually surveyed 196 people in part of our MyTax research, and we found that over 93% of them actually had never had problems, or never or rarely had problems paying their rent on time. And at least 70% of them said they cleaned their apartments like once a week or more. So we can speak to those aspects in providing quality tenants. And so we have had those conversations. It's just the market here in Halifax has been pretty dire, and it's been pretty dire across Canada, plus the other pandemic on top of it. So we haven't had those conversations or continued them in the last 10 months at all, I believe.
Brian from Next Tech AR asks, can you explain in more detail your revenue models? What is the difference between freemium, premium, and a la carte?
So with premium, you get majority of your basic services for free. But if you want additional services, those would be the in-app purchases, such as like an a la carte purchase. So if you wanted to, like I said, boost your profile, if you wanted to back swipe, if you wanted to have unlimited swipes, you have those options. But in a premium service, you have each of these included, but what's included goes up per tier. So if you want to sign up for the premium, you could for X amount of dollars. But if you wanted to sign up for just one of those things for the premium, you don't have to sign up. You can just purchase it from the a la carte shop.
Bruce from HSBC Bank Canada asks, what have you learned thus far from the experience of early stage users? Are there opportunities to improve things based on their experience?
Oh, absolutely. We had tech somebody who's not a tech person at the forefront of building a minimum viable product. So I realized early on that I've had there's a lot of little mistakes, things you overlook, like no push notification features. So the feedback that we've gotten has been monumental on what we've done, and we're going to continue doing that in iterative phases in our next MyTax project.
Mahul from HSBC Bank Canada asks, how is your business's value proposition different from other rental websites that also offer room rental?
The difference is that we are focusing on people's quality of life and the actual quality of the match and the compatibility. Because I've been stuck in a really bad situation and it really affected my mental health, and I know that I'm not alone in that. And because I've lived that, I have a passion to help people through that. This isn't just a room rental service or a room listing service. If that's all you want, you can go to Kijiji. If you're looking for a roommate that you're going to be compatible with and that you can be friends with, then you go to Culpability.
Norman asks, for how long do you think you can keep the customers who have already been matched to continue to make money from them, and how will you be able to monetize that period?
That's a really great question that I've never considered. No, that's literally my answer.
Your time has expired. Judges, please join me in congratulating Laura Russell. Judges, we have a couple of minutes as we bring in the next student. Please use this time to complete your green sheet and we'll get started momentarily. Please join me in welcoming Ida and Darish from McGill University. Please open their report from the link in your email and scroll to their green sheet in your judge handbook. Judges, you will now have 3 minutes to review the report. Judges, please turn your attention to the screen as the video presentation plays.
Hi, I'm Ida Darish, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gynor. Gynor is a medical technology startup that is building a hardware to pre-surgically biopsy uterine tumors in women and clear them for treatments that are personalized to their needs. Now, Gynor's journey started in 2019, where my co-founder and I both met in the Surgical Innovation Program at McGill. As part of our coursework, we were paired with a clinical supervisor in the field of gynecology, and we started shadowing surgical procedures and talking with healthcare professionals about the problems that they encounter in their everyday practice. What we quickly realized is that diagnostic gynecology seemed to be lagging behind, especially when it came to fibroids, which are benign uterine tumors that are in fact the most common gynecological disease in the world. Not only is this an issue that affects 70% of women between the ages of 20 to 55, but it disproportionately affects Black women at a younger age and to a higher degree than the average in the female population. So we decided to dive deeper into this fibroid problem by enrolling into the District 3 validation program. So we interviewed 50 physicians and 20 industry experts about the standards of care for fibroids today. What we found was a pivotal moment in 2014 that changed the fibroid treatment landscape dramatically. Meet Amy Reed, who doctors assumed had these uterine fibroids. So with a current push towards minimally invasive options in medicine as a whole, the doctors removed her fibroids through a new technique called morcellation. But in Amy Reed's case, she had a deadly cancer, and the surgical technique was directly responsible for spraying these cancerous cells throughout her body. As a direct response, the FDA prompted hospitals to ban these minimally invasive procedures, which resulted in a surge of preventative and invasive hysterectomies, or commonly known as the removal of a patient's uterus. A large portion, though, of these hysterectomies are completely unnecessary, resulting in over $700 million in healthcare system costs, whether it be through prolonged hospitalizations, complications, or post-op disability. So the reality of patients today is that they're subjected to longer preoperative wait times, uncertainty, and a poor health outcome.
Hello there, my name is Nkateko. I'm from South Africa and I've been struggling with the fibroid disease. I found out in 2007 when I went to go and consult, and my GP told me I needed to see a gynecologist, and I went there. And from there I've been unable to get assistance, and the only options that they gave me were just myomectomy. They never advised me to try something different. And if I wanted to do that through a public hospital, I needed to wait this long. But I always thought maybe I could try something different, but I didn't know what it would be. So when I tried to look at other options in private healthcare, it was a bit too expensive for me because I had to quit my job because I'm always in pain and I can't go out. I would say that it's a painful disease, and I've been trying to get a lot of information about what could be happening to me, and lately I came across something which I believe I could try, but I would say my life has completely changed, and I hope I could find something that can help me.
The cause of this lack of proper treatment for women with fibroids is because there is no pre-surgical biopsy for at-risk uterine tumors, which translates into expensive and long-awaited surgeries. Gynor is developing the first pre-surgical device which will access the tumor, painlessly take a sample, and enable a pathologist to diagnose it. This solution would allow doctors to offer patients personalized, cost-effective treatments, whether it be by clearing women from minimally invasive options or by detecting their cancer earlier.
Biopsy would be to provide the patient as well as the doctor with a high degree of confidence that the tumor that is being identified is not a cancer. Therefore, the patient has the option of choosing a lot less invasive techniques, as well as to just observe the tumor without having the psychological burden that maybe a cancer is growing within their abdomen. It would be addressed to the general gynecologist and the general radiologist with interest in fibroids, but maybe also to the gynecological oncologists who would be able to integrate this device easily into their daily practice, and with a moderate to minimal amount of training, they would be able to use the skills that they already have in their arsenal.
Entry point is at $38.7 million, which targets approximately 2,500 doctors who treat the most high-risk patients. But we envision capturing the $515 million market encompassing all gynecologists in North America, who typically encounter women with uterine tumors in their daily practice. Part of our risk mitigation strategy involves being the first to implement this tool by selling our units for $15,000 each and our disposable needles at $60, and to provide complementary training modules that would be implemented in the curriculum of medical students. Our timing is critical due to the following trends: an aging population, the rise of uterine tumors, increased awareness about the appropriate methods of treatment, and the decreased stigmatization towards women's health. Now, if we look at the competitive landscape, the focus is really on minimally invasive fibroid treatment, but that doesn't solve the root of the issue. The advantage of our product going to market is that it'll allow for more diverse treatment options for women, so these minimally invasive treatment companies will actually fill a more collaborative role in getting us customers and scaling our business. Gynor will conduct our pilot study right here at the RI and EHC, and we plan to expand to Boston, which is a hub of cancer research centers. Now, after validating with a CEO from a treatment company, we saw that our hardware can actually benefit the Asian and European markets, since physicians there are much more cognizant of minimally invasive techniques that can be used, but nonetheless don't have a biopsy. Our implementation strategy is threefold: to raise awareness for patients, to provide our technology as an attractive procedure to influential doctors, who will in turn convince hospital administrations to buy our device. We will be pairing with the District 3 community to bring forward a communication platform. This will be done to generate further traction around our product while we work to integrate it seamlessly within the healthcare workflow as a necessary step, but it will also allow women from around the world to share their experiences, helping us build a truly patient-centric product. Through competitions, we've amassed a total of $62,000 in non-dilutive funding, which was a major milestone. We now have the necessary funds to build our first work-like prototype and file for a patent. But with Enactus' help, we will actually be able to begin financing our testing and gain further exposure in order to start discussions with larger medtech companies. After all, our exit strategy involves pairing with both a research hospital to conduct clinical trials, as well as a large medtech company to utilize their existing production and sales channels. In turn, this partnership will benefit them since their technology will be usable on a larger subset of the patient population. And I'm so hopeful that you will believe in this dream as much as we do, so I'll introduce you to our wonderful team working behind the scenes.
Hi, my name is Mira. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer of Gynor.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gangal. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Gynor.
Hi, my name is Gabriel. I'm the Technical Lead for Gynor.
My name is Sarah, and I am the Technical Product Lead for Gynor.
And if I can leave you with our vision, it's that the future of Gynor lies in its potential to uphold the trend towards personalized medicine for patients with the world's most common gynecological disease.
It is now time for the question and answer period. Judges, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Click on chat and use the drop-down to ensure you send your questions directly to me, moderator Brittany Johnson. And while the questions start coming in, I'm going to have our students say their name to make sure their audio is working properly.
Hi, I'm Ida Darish.
I will now start the timer. Norman asks, given the lengthy time it takes to commercialize medical technology, what are your strategies to cut through this wait time?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And actually, that's why I mentioned that we were going to start a sort of awareness kind of campaign to provide women with fibroids with information with regards to their disease. Because when we started actually interviewing some people and asking some patients, essentially women who suffer from fibroids, we realized that there's a lot of misinformation out there, first of all. Second of all, there's a lot of, even though I mentioned that there's a decreased stigmatization, there's still quite a lot of stigma associated with gynecological diseases. So they often don't know who to talk to about these kinds of problems. So we want to actually start a platform where not only can we get experiences from these women, but to also share information about fibroids and essentially kind of winnow down all the information that's out there in a clinically relevant way for patients.
Adrian from Equilibrium asks, what stage are you at in developing the biopsy medical device, proving it works as expected, getting it certified, and then mass produce?
Yeah, so we started in 2019, and actually we did our first cadaver test proof of concept, which essentially meant that we used tools that already existed and kind of made a simile product that would kind of do what we want it to do. We tried it out, and we actually, that was a huge learning experience for our team because we realized all of the different components that we had to change in order to get a viable product. So a year later, I'm happy to say that we've essentially built a virtual prototype, which means that we do have a finalized version of our first draft. Our next step will be, actually next week, we're starting to file for a patent, and then we will be sending off our prototype to be printed in a metal, with a metal manufacturer. And the reason why that's important is because we really want it to be life-sized and accurate, so that when we start testing it for the first time, we can get even more good feedback on it.
And Have from Google asks, years 1 and 2 require a huge initial capital expense. What will be the source of this investment?
Yeah, that's a great question, and actually a huge point of concern for our team, which is why we've actually been looking into different kinds of financing opportunities. And I actually mentioned in the video about pairing with a research hospital. So that's actually key to our strategy, because we're not only going to be commercializing a device, but we're actually going to be providing very valuable samples for future research. And that in itself would be able to, that kind of partnership would be able to provide and cover a lot of the costs. And in addition, we're actually very lucky to be living in Canada because we have a lot of different grants, specifically research grants and grants on rare cancers that are available for us. And we plan on leveraging those to ensure that we have the funds in those first 2 years that are absolutely critical. And finally, we're also going to be reaching out to different existing medical device providers. So again, I can't disclose too much about our device, but one of the important modalities in biopsies is the visualization of the tumor. So our strategy will be to contact some of these medical device providers that already exist and also leverage their existing kind of channels. So yeah.
Josh from Master Health asks, what validation to date have you done to prove that your technology works in successfully identifying non-malignant tumors and that you will be able to deliver a fixed unit price at $15,000?
Yeah, okay, great question. I'll start with the first one about how we know that it works. So actually in our first validation, we spoke to 50 doctors. Part of them were gynae oncologists who are part of our beachhead market, but part of those were pathologists. And that's really the key kind of target audience that we're looking for the diagnosis. So what the type of questions that we asked them were basically about the amount of sample that they need to diagnose cancer versus benign tumors. We also asked them about the quality of the tissue, and we're actually compiling all of that feedback into providing them with tissue that is diagnosable. So since we haven't produced our metal model yet, we are actually going to be, that's the first thing we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be reaching back to those pathologists, getting feedback, and if need be, we'll be improving our product in that way. Could you just remind me the second part of the question, please?
That you will be able to deliver a fixed unit price at $15,000.
Yeah, okay, so that's so I'll be completely honest with you. This estimate, where does it come from? Well, it actually comes from us looking at different other companies in neighboring fields such as urology. The reason we picked urology is because it's the most kind of equivalent field, which actually has unfortunately for gynecology, a lot more developments. So we looked at biopsy devices in that field. We looked at approximate prices of those biopsy units, and that's how we priced the $15,000. At the end of the day, maybe in a year I can get back to you and have a more precise estimate. That's something that we'll have to discover.
Brian from NextTech AR asks, what's the soonest you could get through the clinical trial approval process, and what are some challenges you anticipate?
The soonest I would say is in 5 years, because clinical trials are excessively long. Like and it's because it's meant to ensure quality of the product. So I would say 7 years from now, we would be done with the clinical trials. The main challenges that we're going to have, I'll kind of break it down in short term and long term. So the short term would be to acquire this kind of partnership with a research hospital. On the bright side, I do work within the research institute at McGill. So I do have a couple of connections that I plan on leveraging and that we started having preliminary discussions about. However, getting that partnership off the ground does require quite a bit of funding to start with as well. So that's challenge number one, which we'll try to mitigate as best as possible through my connections in that research community. More in the long term, I think one of our challenges will definitely be to expand to other hospitals, because that's another thing that is very important in medical devices, is to gain a very kind of holistic, large picture of what's out there. And for us, it'll be pretty difficult to go into Boston. That being said, we already started discussions with some doctors there. So essentially, we just need to gain their interest with that MVP that we'll produce, hopefully, and that'll be our kind of entry point.
Stuart from Elspark asks, have you begun discussions with any major medical device companies seeking early stage support?
We have. I can't necessarily disclose who they are, but we definitely started talking to them. What I'll say very quickly is the fact that they seemed interested in the idea. We had not disclosed our actual product, again, in interest of keeping our IP, to ourselves until we get a a viable patent, which is going to happen sooner rather than later. And so we plan on reaching back out to them again once we have that. We have that additional protection to start talking more long-term to get that support. So yeah.
Stefan from Welch Capital Partners asks, biopsies can lead to post-surgery infections such as endometritis. Do you see your product lowering or eliminating some of those post-operative risks?
Yeah, so honestly, I think risk of infection anytime you puncture your skin, whenever you go to get your blood drawn, theoretically every year if you go getting your blood drawn for some tests, there is a risk of infection. So I would actually compare our tool to this kind of pinprick of a needle. The whole reason why I'm so confident about the risk being very, very low is the fact that essentially the way our device is built is that we ensure that it doesn't puncture any surface of the uterus, which means that if any bleeding occurs or any infections occur, it'll be kind of localized. And even then you can imagine that the pinprick will be very, very small. So yeah.
Norman asks, what have you learned from the COVID vaccine commercialization and distribution process, and how will you use those learned lessons in your company to be able to fast track or ramp up your own technology commercialization process?
That's actually a wonderful question that I had not actually considered at all. I do think that there's a lot of things to learn from the COVID, especially from the way that, for example, Pfizer commercialized their vaccine versus the way AstraZeneca, how there's, a lot of doubt surrounding, vaccinations as a whole. I would definitely say that, I guess as a scientist, because I am a scientist by training, I think for me, the very important thing is to gather all the data before launching this product. So we'll make sure to essentially do all of our cadaver tests, our preliminary tests at first. And then once we publish a couple of papers that, don't throw people off and make people doubt our product, then we can launch it. Yeah, but that's a very interesting point. And actually, since we have a little bit of time, I did have an idea that kind of popped up in the same vein. So a lot of the devices that are in gynecology, I know that they're kind of scary looking and they kind of come from, maybe 5 decades from back then. And a lot of the products that are produced nowadays are actually not very patient-centric. And I'd like to emphasize that I think for us, that's why it's very important to have this like high quality publishable data on the scientific side, but also have a product that really works for women, because this is something that we want to implement in the large scale worldwide, not just nationally, but worldwide. And essentially, we really think that on one side, we will be very rigorous in our data collection in the clinical trials, but we'll also make sure to listen to all of these women who might give us feedback on the look, on any concerns that they might have, and so on. So I think that's very, very important as well, which kind of is a tangent from the COVID vaccine, but I just wanted to make sure to bring it out there. So.
Your time has expired. Judges, please join me in congratulating Ida Darish.